If you like what you hear on UFO Buster Radio, hit like, subscribe, share, and follow. It's the best way to keep the podcast alive. Now let's get on with it. Cue the music. Welcome to UFO Buster Radio. This is episode number 22 of the UFO News Report. For some reason, every time I do this intro, I feel like I'm on Fantasy Island and Tattoo is going to come out and save the plane. But we don't have Tattoo on this episode. We have the one and only Ronny Dawson. Welcome back, Ronny.
Hey, how you guys doing? It's good to be here.
So in case you guys missed it somehow, and there's just no way you could, but Ronny Dawson just got back from the Roswell Festival. Ronny, what was that all about?
That was pretty awesome. I'd never been to a UFO festival, and so I wanted to go check this out, and I wanted to go share my story with some of the ufologists, some of the best ufologists in the business, because I'm pretty unknown here in the U.S. for some reason. So I wanted to get out there, shake hands, and tell some of the people out there my story, show them some of my pictures, and see if I can get some attention and some help researching this thing.
So, Ronny, I heard that this festival, not only did it mark the 70th anniversary of the incident, but it was a significantly larger festival than the previous years.
It was amazing how they had like 5 different stages and people speaking at different stages, and the stages are scattered 3 miles apart. And they just shut down Main Street in Roswell, basically for this event. And then they got the Galacticon going on down at the shopping mall down there. So, and I mean, you really had to look at the schedule, and you had to pick and choose who you wanted to hear, because you can't see everything, because you can't be 5 places at once. So you really have to like know what you want to hear and make an effort to get over there to see it. And so, yeah, you're just pulled in 1,000 different directions. But, that's the way it should be, because some people like things and other people like different things. So, I mean, you're guaranteed to have a good time, and it's an awesome, awesome event.
So I know there were a lot of big names out there. So when you were looking at the list of the people that were attending, how did you pick who you were going to go see?
I had to read some of their background stuff, and to kind of, I seen Travis Walton. I was like, oh man, I really want to see Travis Walton and talk to Travis Walton. And I know Stanton Freeman was another guy that I wanted to check out. I wanted to hear his talk, and then it was just a question of where are you and what's fixing to start.
Right. So tell me a little bit of your experience.
That was. First of all, it's amazing. It's an amazing event. We loaded up in a 2006 Dodge Caravan. My friend Rick and his wife Brenda were going to be accompanying me on this trip, and Rick calls it the Loser Cruiser. So we loaded the Loser Cruiser up and headed for the high plains of New Mexico. The first history we run into was Rick is babysitting an oil rig outside of Big Lake, Texas. So we basically had to drive 100 miles out of our way to pick Rick up. And by the time we got there, he found out that he wasn't going to get to go. He thought he'd go. He had already paid for the room, and he got stuck at the rig, so he couldn't go with.
That's terrible. He missed it, didn't he?
Yeah. So now I'm going with another man's wife to stay in a hotel up there. So we had to get that cleared with my wife, and
that's right, Ronny. You know who runs the show,
right? Yeah. So I had to clear that through the boss, and she said it was okay.
That was almost a trip ender, huh?
She had to be my cameraman now, so she. I was going, okay, well, guess what? You just got appointed my cameraman. So I told her the job is simple. The job is catching Ronny Dawson on a video or picture, meeting some of the top names in ufology. And she's not much of a cameraman, sadly, and she failed miserably at this.
She lacked experience, huh?
She definitely lacks the kind of experience that we required of the job. She was available. And the price was right. She asked about the pay, and I said, well, here's the pay. You get a UFO Buster Radio koozie, and you get a stress star for those stressful moments when you're not doing your job well.
Nice.
And I said, you get to hang with the semi-famous Ronny Dawson at the UFO Festival, and you only have to pay gas one way on the trip.
Oh.
She said she'd pay gas on the way back, and I could pay the gas on the way up there, but it never occurred to me that it's all downhill from Texas from the high plains of New Mexico.
Oh, you see, she had a plan.
So
You just didn't know it.
Yeah, I didn't dream she was that shifty. You really got to watch her. She's a shifty person, but. And you have to understand, Brenda is kind of like, you see the Andy Taylor show, you see Aunt B? Right. That is Brenda. Yeah, that is Brenda. Except Aunt B can raise her skirt up and break into a jog. Brenda has got two speeds, just like slow and stopped, and it's hard to distinguish between the two. So she's not the most limbo of people, you know. And herding her back and forth through the vendor booths was, like herding a bunch of cats, you know, driving a thirsty water buffalo down the banks of a river. You know, it was like she just veers off and goes over there and gets into a conversation with people, you know. Right. And we're trying to get from point A to point B because we're limited on time. So I was herding her around this thing pretty good. She'd break into a sweat, you know. And I'd have to walk like 20 yards ahead of her. Then I'd have to turn around and wait on her, and I'd have time to go get me a bottle of water. And she'd come walking up finally, and I've already got my bottle open and drinking it. And said, Brenda, you know, I said I thought about getting you a bottle of water, but I was afraid the extra weight would slow you down.
Yeah, you really put her through her paces, didn't you?
Yeah, she earned her money. But yeah, it was amazing. We walked into the UFO Festival, and we went down there to see Stanton Freeman. He was supposed to be speaking, and we walked into this big room where he was supposed to be speaking, and he's not there. And so we went into the UFO museum, and we seen his table set up, and he's not there. And I'm like, well, man, he might got delayed or something's going on. Stanton Freeman is apparently is not here. It's not in the building, you know. And but I looked over there, and there's Travis Walton over there, man. I was like, wow, dang. I said, Dad, it's Travis Walton over there. And there's a short line, you know, of people waiting to talk to him. And I'm going, you know, I said, I really want to talk to this guy. So I went over there and got in line. And this is a short line. This is not like one of those log rides at Six Flags over Texas in the middle. You know, this is 2 or 3 people in front of me. I mean, I probably waited maybe 5 minutes, and I got to talk to Travis and tell Travis about my story and shake Travis's hand. And see, I'd watched enough podcasts to know that not only is Travis Walton important, but so is his fiance. He's with his fiance. His fiance actually organizes the International UFO Conference out there in Arizona. I knew this, so I was like, you know, making sure I talking to her too. So, but anyway, I was showing Travis my stuff, and he was like fascinated about it, you know, going, this is amazing, you know, and you caught this, you're the one that, yeah, I caught this, that video recorded it, I experienced it, you know, and you know, he was like, that's great stuff, you know. So and they were excited to see it and hear it. And I talked to Travis, you know, for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and then the line was getting pretty long, so I knew I had to bail. So I said my goodbyes, and I seen Don Schmidt sitting over there by himself. Nobody's talking to him, you know. I didn't really know who Don Schmidt was, but I know he had to be important if he's in the UFO museum and he's got got a booth. So
it's got to be a UFO type at least.
Yeah, who are you? What's your deal? You know,
yeah.
Don Schmidt, you know. And yeah, come to find out, Don Schmidt, he's a famous guy. You know, he's actually the co-director of a Center for UFO Studies in Chicago. You know. And he's like one of the managers of the UFO museum there in Roswell, you know. So, and he does a lot of talks and lectures, and he was doing a lecture as well. And in fact, he was fixing to go to his lecture, you know. So, and he had somebody that he wanted to interview me and talk to me, but he was going to give me a phone number. But we got separated by the crowd and everybody before we changed numbers. So hopefully I'll get connected to those guys if I didn't get connected at some point anyway. So I went. There's another guy. He was having to go to a conference and you know the bad thing, Brenda never got a picture of me talking to Travis Walton.
Oh really? Wow. I
looked over there after Don Schmidt had left. She jumped in Don Schmidt's chair like she was Don Schmidt. And that is unprofessional, you know. You can't just pretend to be Don Schmidt. People are going to think you're Don Schmidt. You're sitting in Don Schmidt's chair. I talked to this other guy that nobody's talking to. This is Jesse Marcel III. He is the grandson of the guy. You see the Roswell picture in the newspaper where the guy is holding a balloon up after the government comes out and says, this is not a UFO, it's a balloon. And there's a guy holding the balloon. This is his grandson. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him, and he was talking all sorts of stuff about the Dwight Patterson Air Force Base over there where the Roswell UFO was supposedly taken. And, man, he was telling me some weird stuff. I mean, he lived around there. He was on that base, for 7 years, he said. He said there is some strange stuff going on over there. He's wrote a book about all the strangeness that went on over there. And really, it just sounds like the ET want their spacecraft back. That's what it sounds like to me,
Yeah, Jesse's going around doing the usual tour like everyone else, going to different podcasts and talking about his grandfather and stuff like that. Yeah, I've heard a couple of interviews for him. Yeah, and he was speaking up there, at one of the events too. So all these guys were speaking it somewhere. The thing is, I'm sitting there talking to these guys, and you know how many pictures Brenda has so far? I've talked to Don Schmidt, I've talked to Jesse Marcel, I've talked to Travis Walton. You know how many pictures Brenda has got of that? 0. Oh, no pictures at all?
Brenda doesn't do her job well. I'm looking at her. She's staring at the floor. She's staring at the ceiling. And I'm trying to get her attention, and she's not. She's just in the ozone layer, I don't know.
So I take it Brenda's not really to the whole ufology scene.
She's not. No, she's not. No, not really.
Okay.
But one thing Brenda is into is good Josh Gates.
Okay.
Okay, Josh Gates comes walking in, and if you don't know who Josh Gates is, he's on the Travel Channel. He does the Expedition Unknown. And he's a pretty famous guy. He's on the TV a lot and on the TV commercials a lot. And, he's big time a TV star. He comes walking in, and Brenda sees him right away. Now, she don't miss him. I mean, he ain't there 5 seconds, and she's done attached herself to his chest like sticky tape, and I was over there, at this point, I was over there talking to Ron Rieger. I don't know if you know him. He's a UFO researcher for over 50 years. He was an aeronautic engineer for Douglas Aircraft, and he does a lot of talks too. And he had just introduced me to Clifford Mahooty, which is a Zuni teacher for the Native American tribe, Zuni tribe. Mm-hmm. And so I was just talking to him, and he does talks on the Star People, and he's going to be speaking at the next UFO Congress over there. So he's doing talks too. So I just met him, and I look over there, and Brenda is attacking Josh Gates. So I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go rescue Josh Gates from Brenda's hormonal attack. So I go over there to separate Josh Gates from. And Josh Gates, he's the nice guy, She's like, hey, my name is Brenda, and I'm on this on Facebook, and she's giving Josh Gates way too much information, like motel room, room
really?
number. I'm going, Brenda, that is very unprofessional. I had to scold her for being so unprofessional in her duties, and. But Josh Gates, he was nice, and he talked he took a picture with us. And later, I seen a press guy, and I was telling them about my story, and I had no idea. I knew they were press because they were wearing the press tags. I didn't know who they were exactly. Couldn't find out they were with the Travel Channel. And I was telling the guy about my encounter, showing him my stories. And, man, this guy, he got excited, and he grabbed me by the arm and said, come with me. I want you to talk to the producer. He said, this is exactly what we're looking for an episode. And so I went and talked to the producer, and he led me through the crowd to talk to the producer. And right now they're thinking about doing an episode on my UFO alien encounter. So I hope I get that call. They have my information. I haven't heard anything as of yet. But you have to realize Josh Gates, he has like 10 people with him everywhere he goes. I mean, there's a big crowd. They've got the lights, they've got the boom mic, they've got, he's got people on the cameras and on the video, so.
He was there working kind of, huh?
Yeah.
Getting some video and recording done.
Yeah, he may be doing an episode, of all that. And I met another guy named Tom Reed. I do not like this guy, I'll tell you straight out.
Oh, what happened with Mr. Reed?
There's always one in a crowd, and this is the one. I was trying to tell him, show him some pictures about my UFO side, and he's not interested in anything but the Roswell UFO. Told me straight up, I'm not interested in anything. And I'm like, oh, you're a ufologist. You know, only interested in one encounter, you know. So, yeah, to me, that's like playing tennis and choosing to play with one eye closed, you know. It's like,
Exactly. I mean, there's so much, out there that people are experiencing.
And I was talking to some other guys, and they don't care much for him either. So apparently, he's not even a real popular guy in the UFO crowd, you know. So
right.
One of the was talking about it, you know, he didn't care too much for him. So we left there and we made that long march in the heat again, and we decided we got down to the main stage and we heard a bagpipes band play. That was pretty cool. You know, you don't get to hear that kind of stuff in Texas, you know, bagpipes and drums.
Right.
And so we watched that. We were getting pretty hot. We thought, well, let's go down to Galacticon. It's in the mall. They got some AC. So we went down there, and the first thing you see is this old shoddy RV parked out in front of the place. You know, it's like, what's up with that RV broke down? And then I realized that this is the Breaking Bad RV.
Oh, yeah, and, infamous Breaking Bad RV. Right.
And apparently the stars are there, and you can meet the stars of the show, and you can go on a tour of the RV. And but like I said, and I might have done something like that, but you know what? I've never seen not one episode of Breaking Bad. I wouldn't even know what I was looking at or who I was talking to, you know. So
right.
I wish I had seen some episodes, so you know, so I could have capitalized on that once in a time opportunity. But I just hadn't seen the show, you know. So
well, now you can see the show now that you're familiar with the with the stars and basically the vehicle.
Yeah. So we went in there, right? And, okay, there's the blue Power Ranger sitting over there. You know, if you guys are into the Power Ranger thing, the blue Power Ranger, I don't know. Another thing, I don't know anything about the Power Rangers. My kids now, they know all about the Power Ranger, but I don't. I haven't seen the movie or anything. But the blue Power Ranger was there. We saw him, but we didn't talk to him. And so we looked around and we talked to some other people. And I found out where the speakers were speaking, and there was a guy speaking he had just started, and his name is Jack Brewer. And like I said, he's another famous kind of ufologist type guy who does these talks all over the country. And this guy, he was, I don't remember who he worked for, but he worked for almost like they were funded by the black budget, you know. So they're doing secret kind of stuff and building secret aircraft and stuff like that. And he, you know, like McDonnell Douglas or somebody like that, he's worked for a long time. And he sounded kind of like he was skeptical of the whole UFO thing. Like, he thinks that people like Corey Goode, like the government is like, he said some of the stuff they're doing now, they're able to put memories into people and then trigger those memories. And he thinks that the gray aliens, abductions and stuff like this is our government testing their ability to put memories in people and trigger those memories. So, you know, he sounded very skeptical of the whole UFO thing, but as far as conspiracy and the government, you know, he's all about that. But he said he wanted to believe in it, and he wished somebody would have the proof that he would require to believe that we're actually being visited. And I took that as my invitation to talk to the guy after the lecture. You know, so
right, exactly.
I went up there to talk to him, and then he's a nice guy, and he's excited to see what I had. You know, he was excited to go check it out, and he asked me if he could keep one of my flyers that I had taken, and I said sure. That's the reason I brought him. You know, so yeah, he was excited, and I was like, well, look here, you know, I was like, you know, I filed a FAA report on this thing. It's a felony offense to file a FAA report, so that tells you right there that I'm not trying to pull a hoax. I'm not going to risk going to prison over a hoax or to make it, you know, $10-12 on anything.
Yeah, it makes sense, but you know what? His idea that people are having these memories placed into their minds is something that even Stephen Greer mentioned recently in a YouTube video.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and, so he has the same thought process, especially when he listens to Wilcox and Corey Goode talk about the so-called My Labs. And
and he says he knows that the government is coming in and they're going in people's homes and abducting them, basically, just like that ET do. Right. They abduct them, they take them to the Mill Labs, and then bring them back and put them in bed, and they never know it. And it's our government doing that to our people. Sadly. I don't know. Hope that's not true, but it could be, very well could be. But so I had a nice talk with him. But man, we really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and we seen the alien pet contest, which was awesome. The human costume contest was going on right after the pet contest, but pretty far away. We were kind of torn between rushing over there or rushing down and seeing this other thing. So we didn't get to see we saw the pet costume contest, but we didn't see the people contest. But yeah, we had our picture taken with some of the aliens that were walking around. So it was cool. Awesome. We got to see a lot of it. And then the lighted parade at night, it was awesome, man. It was they go right down Main Street. They even turned the street lights off. And downtown Roswell, the street lights are aliens, alien heads. They got the alien face on the street lights.
Isn't that amazing how they've embraced the whole Roswell situation?
Yeah, there's a big crowd down there, and at night, and there's a lot of people down there. I was sitting there, I was freaked out by the fact that there's still a lot of debate over what day it happened. Sadly, we can't even agree on the date. From what I was hearing, they found one craft, and then they didn't know there was another one, and then there was bodies that had laid out there quite a while and decomposed and stuff like that. So, it was like, They found one craft, but they didn't know the other one was there. Then they realized there was two craft, and then there was bodies laid. There wasn't bodies in the craft, and then they found the bodies a good ways from the craft, like they had managed to get out and maybe had walked a ways, or they had got thrown a good distance from the craft, and the bodies were badly decomposed. And so, man, it's just who knows? Yeah. It's still a mystery.
Roswell is a story. Even though at 70 years, it continues to evolve every year. It is a weird thing. And I don't know if anybody talked about the documents, the so-called documents that they published about the Roswell, but now there is a sheriff that apparently drove by the crash site back in Roswell 70 years ago. Did you hear about that one?
Yeah, that was an awesome story too, because he said they were trying to tell, they're Texas sheriffs. And he said that they contacted him and told them that they couldn't say anything about what they had seen, and they told them to shut the hell up. We don't have to listen to you. And that's exactly what a Texas sheriff would do. He would we don't care what you say. We ain't saying anything anyway, Yeah,
exactly. But there you go. Here we are 70 years later, and we have another story of Roswell.
All those guys are getting old now, so now they're spilling the beans, and it's probably making the government quite angry that all these old timers are spilling the beans. They're getting old enough now they just don't care anymore. We don't care. Yeah. You're gonna kill us. We're fixing to die anyway. Yeah.
Now I had a question for you because you tweeted one particular picture which struck me as far as the situation in Roswell, and that was the picture of Stanton Friedman, and under it you posted that basically he seemed to be alone. No one was really interacting with him.
Yeah, I hadn't got to talk to. We went to see him do the lecture, and he wasn't there. And I talked to a press guy, and he goes, "Yeah, he's actually in here. He was in the video room speaking in. He wasn't supposed to speak in the video room. He was supposed to speak in the large room right next to that. And so I guess he was in there doing the talking there instead of where he was supposed to be. And so while we were talking to these other guys, he walked out and sat down at his table, and the place was full of people. And I looked over there, and there's Stanton Friedman sitting at his table by himself. There was nobody there, And I thought, oh man, this is my chance to talk to Stanton Friedman, So I run over there real quick, and there was a line developed, after I got there. So I was like the first one to him, and they started lining up behind me to talk to him. So, yeah, I got to talk to him and show him my pictures, and he sounded real interested and excited to see him. And these guys, they had never heard of Ronny Dawson. They didn't know who Ronny Dawson is, and told them about the Ronny Dawson UFO story. And I showed them the pictures of the encounter, and I said, "This is good stuff right here." And it hasn't gotten any attention here in the U.S. And nobody. There's so many UFO sites here, you have to compete with them. The first video I posted after my encounter is just simply called UFO. And there's less than 3,000 views on that thing. People think that if you see something, you just post it to YouTube and tomorrow to have 1 million views, but it's really not that way. You see something amazing, you put it on YouTube, and 3 years later, it's got 3,000 views. And the only reason my popular video has 900,000 views is because there was a guy using a clickbait title and using some of my material out there. And basically what I did was steal my own sighting back. I used his clickbait title because he hadn't uploaded anything to YouTube yet. Man escapes alien abduction with pictures to prove it. And he posted it in several websites, but he hadn't done it to YouTube yet. So I stole my story back. And I posted it on YouTube using that title because that's the title he would have used if he posted it on YouTube. So I actually beat him to the punch on YouTube and stole my own sighting back.
There you go.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the way you got to do it, Ronnie.
Right. It's got almost 900,000 views right now on YouTube. The wording of the title is what it's all about.
Yeah, it's a clickbaiting. That's what you got to get the people's attention with your title.
Yeah, I get a lot of hassle. Oh, are you using this clickbait title? Well, they don't realize, they don't know the whole story. The story is I had to steal my own sighting back from a guy who was already doing that.
So you've been to your first festival. What do you think? Do you think you continue on visiting other UFO festivals?
Oh yes, that's exciting. I've got some interest right now, and they're talking about having me be a speaker at one of those events. I talked to Reverend John Polk out in Arizona, and they're starting up a new conference out there, and he was talking maybe inviting me out to speak at it. So, someday I might be one of those guys that gets to sit there himself.
Fantastic.
Maybe I'll be sitting behind a table.
So I am going to include the link to your YouTube channel, and also you got an ebook together of your story, and we're going to put that in the description. That way, anyone that's listening today wants to look a little bit more into Ronnie's story. If you happen to miss the interview that we did earlier in the podcast history, you can definitely go on Ronnie's YouTube and go on to take a look at the ebook, because Ronnie's put it in print for historical purposes, right, Ronnie?
Yeah, I've got it in the ebook right now. I haven't got it in print, and since I've actually got another chapter to add to it since we had an encounter last year. So I may hold off on actually printing that thing till we see where this is going to go. I hate to print a story out and then get the good stuff, miss the good stuff. So I'm almost tempted just to leave it in the ebook form until I find out what's going to happen next year, because they come around every year, and this last year they give us a light show, and my whole family got to see it. So for years they thought I was crazy, but last year they actually got to see the lights themselves, and man, they were excited. And the first few minutes of it, it's called Dawson Family Encounters Lights. It's on my YouTube channel. And you can hear the kids see the lights because we're filming through the windshield of the car. But I left it in the video because I wanted everybody to see how the excitement in their voices, how their mood changed. When they saw the lights, the mysterious lights and stuff like that, everybody just got fanatically excited, like, oh my God, that's it. Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. I've been waiting my whole life to see something like this, And it made me realize, as one of my son's friends, he almost started crying. He goes, man, I've been waiting my whole life to see something like this. And I was like, wow, I get to see it. I get to see it every year, and I don't, so it gave me a whole new appreciation for what ET's showing me.
Yeah, sometimes they just have to see to believe, Ronnie.
Yeah, and there's nothing like seeing to believe.
Well, Ronnie, I thank you for joining us and giving us this update on the Roswell Festival, and hopefully the next festival you go to, we'll get an update as well. Yes,
Aurora's coming up September 16th, so I'm definitely going to be there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today, Ronnie. It was amazing, as usual.
Thank you, Manny.
Well, there you go, folks. That was Ronny Dawson with us here live for UFO Report number 22. And Ronnie, first conference, he decides to go to the 70th anniversary of the Roswell incident. I can't think of any other festival to go to than the one that happened around the time that things really got started in this crazy topic of ufology. So like I said, I'll have those links in the description. Check it out. If you want to listen to Ronnie's story, I'll have a link to the initial interview we did with Ronnie way back when. I mean, he's got a great story, and you just heard he had another sighting just past March, as a matter of fact. So before I leave, keep in mind that you guys can find UFO Buster Radio on ufobusterradio.com, through Twitter. You can also find us on Facebook through our Facebook pages, Manny Moonraker and UFO Buster Radio, and also Instagram at Manny Moonraker. Above all, if you like what you've been hearing, like, share, and follow. There is no better way to support the podcast than to do that. Because the truth is, if you're listening on a podcast app and you hear commercials, those commercials are not in any way associated with the podcast. Those are being played by the individual or the company or the app that you're listening to the podcast through. But the best way to get us out there is by sharing, liking, and following. And I thank you for being here today with Ronnie and myself. Ciao.